Maria Matarelli here with Alistair Cockburn and Alisa Lorello, and we are going to talk about thriving with AI. Now, there's been some happenings over the last week or so, and it appears that the interest is picking up on using AI more at organizations, but sometimes they're going so fast that it's not really being done thoughtfully. Now, one of the things that I'm noticing is this conversation is only growing, it's not going away. Alistair, Alisa, we left off last time talking about organizations, talking about the people, talking about as these transitions happen. How are we feeling about this topic now? Any initial thoughts here?
I think where we were heading and their discussion last time is spot on. I mean, where we're seeing exactly what the leaders are talking about, how they're trying to implement, how they're trying to get AI, adopted across their organizations. I think that we're still seeing that. I mean, even Zuckerberg's came out and said that they're going to add that to their performance review and evaluations. I think these are certain areas that it seems like they're still trying to figure that out and how to get that adopted.
Yeah, so and I don't know if I'm out of sequence, but this is one of our bookmark topics, so I'm going to go into the Zuckerberg thing right away. And Elisa, you said this is an example of faulty leadership, and I'm doubling down on what I started with the beginning of the last one, which is there's so much dust in the air, there is no shape yet. The dust hasn't settled, it has no shape, and the fact that Zuckerberg doesn't know is for me anchoring that not even Zuckerberg knows. And so, but here's the interesting thought I had about it yesterday. So Zuckerberg tells everybody at Meta, you're going to be evaluated on how much value you get out of AI. Now, let's say there's 20,000 people and they're all getting their reviews, right? So like on the one hand, maybe that's bad management, maybe it's good management. Number two, nobody knows how to use it. But here's number three is because they'll be grading people on what they use it for. They have a giant laboratory with 20,000 experiments. And so they will work out over the next 6 months where it's bringing in value, right? So actually they're in a learning moment. They have a lovely learning lab going right now. So those are my thoughts is nobody knows, literally, not even Zuck, right? And he's going to go find out. And so he will learn something.
Well,
That's
and I think that goes back to when we talked about the infrastructure, right? There has to be, these companies and corporations who are adopting this, they need a solid infrastructure to adopt this and set people up for success if they have that expectation. And it can't be looked at again as just a tool that is implemented. It's really a process. It's training. It's more comprehensive than that, especially if you're going to now be using that as a performance metric of evaluating people.
So, Maria, what are some of your thoughts or responses, emotional or otherwise, to the Zuckerberg thing? And Elisa and I both kind of like dropped a drop in the water on that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you're looking at now organizations, they have to change how they measure things, right? They have to change what people focus on. And as they're talking about having people measured on how well they're now integrating AI and what they do, ideally, we want people to embrace that. But the question is, are they rolling out these initiatives in a clear, understandable, and responsible way?
Mhm.
Right? Because we do need to leverage emerging technology, but what's the way that we're stepping into that? I think is the question.
If we go to the bad management aspect, which I tend to try to avoid because I think it's, nothing's going to change the bad management aspect. It's people like Zuckerberg don't care about the collateral damage of their edicts, right? So to what you said, Maria, right? That leader makes edict do this, and there is collateral damage to people, their families, their ulcers, their livelihoods, their everything. And those people who are, we will call the, not malevolent leaders, literally don't care. So I don't like to dwell on that. It's a fact of life, but it's there. Yeah, and that's what I heard, kind of you pointing to.
That goes to bad management because then, you have no retention. You're going to lose talent. You're going to have talent leave. And then again, back to, we'll touch on the tribal knowledge piece we talked about before. Now you've got talent leaving that has the expertise that you need. And we know that that's a limited expertise in the industry right now. So I think at this point they can't afford not to be more mindful and to have more care and concern in regards to providing the resources. And I mean, if that's the expectation that they're going to be doing a performance review, then they have to be giving their employees the time and the space to be able to evolve that skill set. You're also assuming that everybody is walking in and possesses that skill set and can automatically be utilizing that and maximizing the technology that's out there, especially as fast as it's moving and evolving.
So ultimately, what we're discussing here is that there's a part of the process of how things are done, not just what's done as far as a company transitioning to using AI, but how they're transitioning. That's a factor. Elisa, one of the things that I was hearing from some of the students in my training classes this last week is they were talking about how there's these huge AI initiatives and there's people being let go, like quite a few at all at the same time. And when we start to see that, we lose some of that tribal knowledge. And this is one of the things we wanted to double down on exploring is how can we make sure that we're not losing the tribal knowledge of our organization? Because at some point, the pendulum might swing back the other way. And we say, hey, we need more people now to review the things that are being done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at truly the strategies that should be adopted in administering the AI technology, I think they're quick to look at, oh, can, implement this tool, reduce people, just kind of, it's always kind of profit oriented. But the reality is that AI is still very limited in what it can and cannot do. You still have to have the people working with it, managing it. And if they just start letting people go, we are going to lose some of that tribal knowledge. And that I don't think companies value that oftentimes or really understand the impact risk that it has. A lot of companies and corporations, especially, I see a lot of tech companies, you've got a lot of folks that are ready to retire, and they're not really setting up mentorship programs or putting in mechanization to transfer that knowledge of some of your folks who've been in the company and corporation a long time. There's a lot of value in where, the company has gotten to and those backstories and the knowledge base of, where the company has evolved. And I think if they don't value that as they are making, these big cuts and layoffs, that could create some impacts. And honestly, you could see that some of those folks could get rehired, in the future. I think that's something that they're just trying to get the wins. Again, back to what we talked about last session, right? It's that big executive, we need AI, adopt AI, it's going to save us money. And then they're getting in there just kind of making quick decisions with really not putting in some solid infrastructure and strategies, in play at the company and corporation for the sustainability that you talk about.
Well, and that's really interesting when you bring it up that way because, ultimately what we're looking at is how can we increase the efficiency without disruption, right? Disruption to the system. And when you look at what the improvements are that are being had already by being able to have each individual person optimized, and then we look at how do we cut costs further? Why is there such a rush? So we look at like sustainable growth as a focus that companies have. How can you grow sustainably? Well, it doesn't feel like the sort of going downward and not really growing, but I guess almost downsizing the workforce, right? How can that be done? You don't want to do that in an unsustainable way, where I think what companies are doing is they're just getting the cart before the horse a little bit before they realize what all needs to be done in order to properly move forward into the future. If you had all of the tribal knowledge and the mindsets of the individuals that really know how things work at your organization, why not use that to brainstorm and identify the next steps of what you're doing? One would think that that would make sense.
Absolutely, like tapping into that, right? Tapping into that expertise and growing and evolving with that. I think, but I think there's the fear right now. I mean, like post COVID, right? COVID taught us a lot. A lot of companies realized they weren't right. They weren't agile. They couldn't pivot fast enough, and we saw a lot of companies shut down because of that. And we're seeing that again in the market with the AI race. is that companies are realizing, they've got to get faster to market, meet market trends. There's just so much more competition and demand for them to be, meeting market trends faster. And so I think it's just maybe that mindset of just having to, cut costs, get efficiency. But like you said, the reality is that the efficiency isn't in cutting your workforce, your labor force. The efficiency is getting into a growth mindset in the company and better coming up with a growth mindset strategy in how to utilize your employees, and especially those employees that have that tribal knowledge or the expertise to help you grow and continue to grow. And I think that's in positioning, I guess, growing and positioning the company into a better in the market, positioning them better in the market. I think that's some of it versus just the let's cut the bottom line, show some great numbers, and help our stock prices.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. And we had that article, Duncan Brown, his talk on team dynamics after AI. Alistair, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I've been going through, I've been listening to you too, and like highlighting more things in here, just but trying to find. He's got a couple of sentences in here. I'll give a little bit his background. And he's got and Maria went and did the obvious thing that I didn't think to do, which was to get ChatGPT to summarize it. And I read the summary, and the summary misses all the things that are actually interesting and exciting about his article. So that already we have a reference there. Yeah, yeah, it summarized, the if you did sheer number of words, it condensed proportionally the number of words. But if we talk about critical ideas, it missed the ones that spoke to me. So that's already a comment. So he was, and I don't have his full bio here, but he works in England in the public sector. He works for the government, and apparently they had a thing called an incubator. Now, in the incubator, they had a lot of projects. They were trying to see how to use AI for their public-facing services. So this is the English government looking for. So one of the things he points out is that you run into let me just go see. Here we go. My first one. I'm going through his article, and I picked out these things. Uh, AI is great at producing artifacts. Now, if our job is to produce artifacts, then AI is the bee's knees, right? Um, the counter argument go. If AI, because AI can make artifacts, then making artifacts 10 times as fast is as undeniably good. But he says, but the artifacts aren't really what the work is about. And that's the part that the Chat GPT summarized. Um, so he's working with, what government projects are like and what ordinary citizens are like when they get to a government website or service, right? And the attitudes. And he said, I led a project which took full advantage of AI's production tools, only to run heavily and terminally aground on an organizational governance and confused expectations in the department with which we were engaging. In that situation, there was literally no quantity of artifacts that would have helped. And then the thing, like the Chat GPT summary didn't pick that out, but that's actually the point, right? So the rest of his article now, let me, for people who might want to hunt this down, I won't read you the URL or anything, but the guy's name is Duncan Brown, and the article, it was a talk he gave apparently at an Agile conference, no less, and it's called Team Dynamics After AI. And so this is his like book report from his period there, and he had left. So the first thing he's saying is you've got we've got the tribal knowledge, Alisa, that you're going to want to get to, and Maria, you referred to. He's talking about the interface with ordinary people on the user side, on the end consumer side, and he's talking about ordinary people running government employees, and what happens when you just get very adventurous and start shooting a lot of artifacts at them, and they all look different than what they're used to, right? And we know that they like to see what they're used to. So that's I think that's what he's referring to.
I mean,
Uh,
that's a good side on the flip side of it too, on the customer, right? Because we're talking about inside the company, but are the company's customers themselves ready?
That's a good point right there.
yeah,
Right? Are they ready to consume if it's straight AI? Or, I mean, how many times have we been on phone call loop, press 9, press 4, and then now there's AI assistants. I mean, Wendy's has AI now. You go up to order at Wendy's and, you've got the AI tool in itself. So
So I'm writing some little notes in the chat here. I'm saying for Duncan, one point was the end users may not like the artifacts and the org, right? So I'm just putting those like really, really quick in here so we could keep track afterwards of the points. The next thing, I'm going to skip over the next thing, which is like a heavy piece and has to do with training, retention, evolution, and stuff, and get to the very end, which is learning. One of the things that we talk about is how do junior designers become senior designers? Because it used to be because they did the hard work and they learned how to do the work. And now the junior designers get all the work, hard work done for them. Where do they develop the skills? But what he takes it again into a different direction that I love. He talks about the amount of learning and therefore cultural changes multiplied by the number of heads. And then I've been picking out, okay, here's the part. Junior developers are in a continuous process of assessing their options for the next career move. I've never heard anybody talk about this, and where he goes this with is fantastic. Some will become tech leads and maybe go into management. Some will be happy as individual contributors forever. Here's the part. Still, others will move sideways into other disciplines or other fields. The feedback they get from their work and the learning from earlier projects help them to make these decisions in an informed way. And these are the decisions that which shape their as their professional scope expands from their work to the team to the organizations. So I haven't seen that yet. We've got his middle part that he's big on is AI won't improve, it gets stagnant, right? And I was going after how do junior developers become senior developers, but what he went was the total enriching of the person through making decisions and seeing the effects of decisions and working in the field. And now they shift fields, they become managers, they become something else. They need that body of feedback, right? Touching the texture of the thing when they're like in their 40s and 50s and making other kinds of decisions. And that's a really interesting aspect of learning that I had never considered and never seen touched. That's why I like this article. I think everybody should read it. It's got the 3 points, but that one was like the most surprising.
I think that was the video I had watched, and Maria, you and I had first talked about that when I said teams would be hybrid. And I think that, and we kind of touched on it a little bit last session, but is that the organizational team structure will look very different. And I think part of that paradigm shift is like you will still need like product managers or program managers because they have to be able to still orchestrate and piece and stitch the pieces and parts of the program together. Back to what you were just saying, right? There's that knowledge base or that experience that kind of goes behind someone making those decisions and the strategy. But I think at the like we're talking about the junior developer, you will have AI agents, running alongside because you're still going to have verifiers and validators, right? And I think that's where the paradigm shifts in a lot of it. You still need that expertise, but that expertise may not still be hands on keyboard. It may just be verifying and validating what the outputs are from AI and ensuring that the accuracy in it, right? Because we still know it's not 100% accurate. It's way faster than most humans can produce, but there still has to be someone going in there verifying and validating that, as well as ensuring guardrails, security, compliance. So there still has to be that piece and component. So we will have hybrid teams, at least that I see, that will be AI and human, but you still have to have that layer of management that's looking at it, across. I don't think that's something that can go away. And that's where when we talk about tribe of knowledge, that expertise, you still have to have that. That's that strategy, that person who has that experience and knowledge to ensure that things are heading in the right direction.
And I also agree that for an individual, being able to enhance your skill set and learn about AI and diving in head first, to be able to increase your understanding and ability to look at how to create AI agents or write great prompts, things like that. That's going to be a skill set that even if your organization is trying to let go of people, you're going to be able to go to other organizations and help them do that. So because it's here today, it's here now, I believe now's the time to learn about it, learn how to work with it, and learn how to enhance your skill set to be able to add value and even look to how to guide an organization how to effectively do it. Because the thing is, I think the truth about the matter is that enough of our competitors are doing it that we almost have to. If your
I,
competitors are using
it's
AI,
it's
you have
here.
to.
It's solid here. It's solid.
Yeah.
There's no debate.
Well, and I think, Mary, to your point too, I think that's where there's the value in training. And I haven't seen a lot out there in regards to classes or certification classes, but I think right now everybody's looking at AI as like programmers or developers, learning the AI, how to write agents and that type of stuff. But there has to be leadership knowledge base, right? And part of that too, also we talk about is in doing adoptions, company and corporate adoptions. They need to be hiring coaches who understand what an AI adoption should look like, so that one, they're getting that solid infrastructure in place for sustainability, but your leaders also have to understand what is that paradigm shift and what is that going to look like in the future for management and leading. It's not going to be command and control anymore. It's going to have to be really like what we know in Agile is like a servant leadership mindset.
Well, so now I was on the side of, gee, we're in trouble because the people won't get those decisions from touching the texture. And what you guys just did was to say, no, au contraire, the new texture is the use of AI. And so those who learn to use AI now and integrate it when they're now a decade ahead, the texture that they're working with is a lot of people using AI, right? And so that's the skill set, that's the touch, the fingertip touch of the texture of the problem that they're going to need a decade from now. Thank you. You've
Yeah,
evolved
that's
my
it.
understanding of that. That was great. I hope some of the viewers, somebody else, some other people kind of followed along on that little escalator.
Thank you, Alistair. So, Alistair, you've got a couple other points here on this article.
Yeah, so I put it in the chat. I just said point one, the end users may not like the artifacts nor the org. Two, people need contact with the problem solution in order to make better decisions a decade ahead in their career. And you guys just morphed that into part of what they need contact with is the use of AI. But the third one, it was the main part of his article where he went into some detail that the AI database, the model needs constant input from humans in order to not stagnate. And then he goes and he's got some drawings, but he says, I'm working with Tim or whatever the person's name is, and we're doing some AI design. Now he works for the government, and they've got very standardized website, icons and things like. There's nothing innovative going on. You want to make a website, you use the government standard radio buttons, check boxes, address field, whatever. He says, and so if the world would stay still, then the AI thing could generate everything that was needed. But in fact, the world doesn't stay still, and you need slight mods, and so there is a continual feeding into the set of standards, government standards, done by skilled designers as they need very small new things, right? And that's the part that the AI can't do. So you've got, a junior person who can get everything that's there, but you need somebody slowly evolving, maturing, and growing and morphing the model itself in order to keep up. And if everybody's just a reader and not a writer to the model, then the thing will go sideways. That was his third point. Alisa, now that's something you talk about or think about also, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and I guess when you said that, I just think of guardrails. I think that's sometimes where with the technology we have to set, companies have to be thinking about some of the guardrails that they set in the usage, and then how the teams work together for that.
But what about the stagnating, like the fact that he's asserting that you really have to have humans creating new things to keep it moving large language model, the AI
Yeah.
database forward. Otherwise, it's just copying old stuff.
So, it's interesting you said that. I just had this conversation with my son in the car because he was talking about how that the number one song was an AI generated song, and he was upset because he loves music, he's very passionate, and that he's the fear factor for the future is that would stifle human creativity. And I told him, I said, one of the things we do have to look at, because AI is database driven, right? So it's all about, at the time, we know when originally like ChatGPT was released, right? It was a certain data set at a certain time, and then now it's aggregating and growing. But if AI just kind of takes some of that over, we don't continue to evolve and grow and get more creative, well, then the AI will get stagnant as well. It really is kind of a symbiotic relationship when you think about it.
That's right. And the thing that again he had nicely documented is that it's not just pull out data from the large language. The large language model got its learning from a lot of people doing a lot of things. And now that we're just reading, we're just pulling from it, it needs to constantly be fed.
Yeah. And I mean, especially if we have the expectation for it to reach super intelligence level for AI, it's got to
Uh-huh.
continue to grow and evolve and advance with us. So, um, and some of that is the information and the data that it's fed.
Oh, here's a note. He was saying because the AI for generating user interfaces was so good, they didn't need any more senior designers. He was trying to hire a senior designer because he knew that you had to have somebody to do, these little things and keep it honest. It said it took a really long time and a lot of conversations even to hire one lead designer, and the status of design remains somewhat in question. I don't think this was necessarily a prejudiced decision from the org's perspective. It makes sense. We could just keep shipping regardless, but he could see the degradation over time if you're only copying old stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the article. I can let it go now. Those are the 3 points that I wanted to pull out of it. The first one that we have to take into account the receivers, both the organization and the end users. The second one that people have to grow, and you guys help me understand that, stay in contact with the way decisions are made and the consequences of the decisions. And the third is we need humans in there to keep innovating. Actually, the innovations, are coming from the humans and the updating. So with those 3 points being made, I can let Mr. Duncan Brown go.
Appreciate these insights, Alistair. I think that's key, right? It's key to take that step back and look at what's going on. What types of steps are people taking and what are the assumptions that they're making, right? What are the things that they're coming to the conclusion on? Because it's like the modern gold rush, right? It's like the technology gold rush of
It
to
is.
knowledge and also in training and learning. And so if we look at that, there's rapid feedback loops that are happening right now. And how can we look at the adoption and interest in AI through that iterative lens, right? And so there's something in the agile adoption of agile, right? Can there be an agile adoption of AI? And that could be more effective.
I'll tell you one thing I think I would like to touch on next time if we do subject wise was the customer side of it. I think that was really my takeaway from today is, a lot of the discussions are internal company and the corporation, how they're adopting it and what they're doing. But as we know in Agile, right, we got to get customer centric. Everything has to be customer centric. So are are their customers of their companies and corporations actually ready to adopt that? Because again, small example, but Wendy's, the fast food restaurant, again, we pull up to it and the line was so much longer. People were struggling with it. We got up to the front, the internal staff, because it was giving all the wrong information. So did that help? Is that helping Wendy's? That actually, I might try and go research that. Or is adopting AI early, did it actually harm them? So it'd be interesting to see.
What's with Wendy's and AI and hamburgers?
Yeah, so Wendy's fast food restaurant, if you pull up to the drive-through, it's an AI. So the screen itself, it's an
Oh,
AI. Yeah, so it'll type out like, like please tell me your order and we will put it, and then you speak your order, and then yeah, but it doesn't give, like, there's still a lot of limitations to it. Even, luckily I work in the technology, so I knew how to, talk to it and tell, oh, remove that, because it was not even getting my order correct.
Well, then this is a
And
really interesting point here, Elisa, because at what point are you an early adopter versus you're a laggard, right? And
yeah,
if we're looking at early adopters, there's absolutely that risk of finding the first bugs or stumbles. And it may not be quite there. What I've noticed is that even training up AI agents, you have to iterate through it. And so as you're iterating through the prompts and kind of it's like rapid iterations, right? On
hmm
how can I get it to do this? Oh, wait, it misunderstood. And then immediately again. And so when you start to look at using this approach in how we even look at AI itself, there probably will be a lot of pain in it not getting it perfect the first time. But if that company continues to innovate and try, will they win in the long run? Right?
initially when I saw that was like, I thought this is cool, this is great, love seeing this at Wendy's. But at the same time, maybe they should have adopted like a little bit of a Chick-fil-A approach where you have a person who's out there at the box helping people order and get familiarized with it,
Oh,
to
yeah,
kind
that'd
of
be
ease that
way better.
transition,
Way better.
right? Just to get
I
people
think
familiar. And
Alistair wants
then
to say something.
go
Alistair, did
ahead.
you have something to say?
Just me. Yeah, I want to inject some humor
Please.
into this very serious conversation. This is a slide I show in all of my talks, and it happens to be exactly spot on the Wendy's thing. And it's about early learning, right? So the thing is, learning curve, and you do experiments, right? And you want to learn about the business, and you want to learn about the UI, and so you put spikes and probes and experiments, right? So this is literally a screen snapshot, evidently from my iPhone, of a conversation that this guy put forward, and I found him on Twitter, and I asked him for permission, and I promised I wouldn't use his name because you'll find out why as soon as I get going here. And he goes to get a pizza at the Domino's or what the heck, I don't know where. Okay, so here's the conversation. Brian, your next automated pizza delivery is scheduled for Saturday, February 25th at 12 p.m. To confirm, text yes. To decline, text no. Text help for help. And he types back, thank you, Papa John, you handsome man. I shall call you the Carbs Vixen. We're sorry, we didn't understand. Please confirm or decline. When I make love, I imagine you tossing some dough shirtless. Dude, our automated system isn't set up yet. This is a real person texting you. I make minimum wage. Please just tell me if you want the pizza. And
So
and
good.
like this was from some years ago. I've been showing this for years, and now you tell me that Wendy's was exactly in that position. And what I say, it's a technique, in the lean startup world called concierge, where you don't put a system there, you put a human there, which used to be people, oh my God, salary is so expensive to have a human there. We could have a computer doing it. But for your first AI system, you have no idea how the people are going to respond, right? And so you spend, whatever, $500,000 in, putting an AI system, and your first user happens to be a tester. This guy was obviously a tester. I mean, only testers do that sort of nonsense. Clearly, he could see what was going on and just decided to play, right? But your average users will do something just as unexpected, right? So you literally just gave the Wendy's version of that.
Well, it's change management, right? And I think that's got to be factored into a lot of this, right? Is helping to make those transitions and help. I mean, we know change is hard, right? People don't respond to change well, so we have to implement some of those change management methodologies to assist in that. I mean, the other, when you think of it too, is like self checkout, right? When self checkout first
They still have a
happened,
person. They still have a
they still have a
person there to
person,
help
yeah.
you.
True. That's true.
About a third of the time, the person just comes and does all the buttons for you, right? Like,
Yeah. So I mean, the same kind of thing, but exactly those. So yeah, I think that was an interesting statement, and Maria, to that point, like, are the customers ready, and then how do they support and help transition that with their customers so that they don't risk losing customers or losing business from their client base just not ready to consume it, or at least that they're delivering it in a way that it supports that they've got a solid strategy in place.
Yeah, I like that. And I think for me the big takeaway from today is it's about the way you transition. That is key in the fact that you are doing a transition. Well, but it's not just that you are doing it, how are you doing it? And that
Hmm.
rollout is important.
Exactly.
Alistair, do you have any closing thoughts from today?
Well, I just realized, I mean, what occurred to me, we're talking about like from sort of the large organization perspective, right? All the leadership, all the inertia. And what's, I guess, very plain as the nose on your face, as they say, is that there's a new set of millionaires who are going to be made who are solo people, maybe one or two, who are using these tools, and they don't have the bureaucratic friction to slow them down. And they're just going to go, it's like you said, it's the new gold rush, right? The first people went out there with the mining pans and they got the gold and they got the rich. And I'm thinking now of a friend, this is through a conversation, who, whatever his previous source of income was, is a very obviously sort of an innovative kind of a person and in sales. And took a look at what books sell the most. Well, it won't surprise you that the answer is romances. So he got trained up his little AI bot thingy to produce romances. Now, when we talk about, like your son, Alisa, well, oh no, but the music, I was listening to some music. I'm working, I get a 2 hour quiet jazz thingy with some name, Chinese silk, whatever jazz thingy, whatever. I wouldn't know if it was AI generated. It's just background music. Like I literally, I don't know. So this guy decided to do that with romance novels, and he's up to 3 books a day.
Oh my gosh.
He puts 3 books a day on Amazon at between 50 cents and $1. And the people who consume, romances are buying them like crazy. So that's his new source of income. So, I mean, the point is whole new genres come up and whole new millionaires, but they're going to quite likely to be smaller pods of people. And then we look at the large organizations like public sector that can't do that. So we got these really two different universes. So listening to you guys, that's was the last thought I had out of our conversation.
Oh, amazing. Alisa, final words.
Oh, wow. I mean, Alistair just spawned like a whole other thought process on consumption.
Good, bookmark it for the next time. Just say what the bookmark is for next time.
I mean, next time I really think the conversation about customers and are the customers ready, I think that's a really good, interesting topic. And the other side of it too, that probably goes along with that to what you just finished talking about is demand, the consumption. I think that the technology is helping folks, or companies, sorry, releasing and demanding, releasing and meeting demands faster. But I just think about like the consumption side of that, like you're saying, like music, you look at like, streaming movies and TV shows and people binging stuff. And, I think the market demand is to get, more books, more content out there. So I think the pressures for the companies, I think the market demand is to get, more books, more content out there. So I think the pressures for the companies is to utilize the technology, but again, in a sustainable way, that we are continuing to build creativity and we're not losing, some of the valuable aspects of having human and technology working together. I think,
The
that
question, what's the
collaboration is going
question?
to be a part of it.
Was that your bookmark for next time, or was that your closing thought on this time?
Closing thought, but I think a little bit of a bookmark too, because I think talking about customers' consumption and customers' wants and demands, and are they ready for the outputs? And I think in some industries they're more ready than others. So I think some of that's going to be client based too. So that's my bookmark.
All right, fair enough. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for our segment here on Thriving with AI. Appreciate Alistair and Alisa, you sharing your thoughts. I'm really enjoying these conversations. And I think these are the conversations that need to happen, being aware and having it front of mind and thinking about how are we going to adapt and move forward as well in this new landscape. So, all right, thank you guys. And we'll have another
Next
one
time.
soon.
Yeah.